was your first run-in or, I guess, experience with the hairy man story?
With the hairy man, it was when I was on the farm in that period from 12 to 14, from the end of 1934 to the beginning of 1937.
Had you heard of any of these stories before you actually had your own experience?
I'd heard of the Dad had told the stories of his Uncle Tom out at Yuki, which is 9 miles from Stanthorpe, on part of the old station. All of that area around there was in the Folkestone run, Folkestone, of William Henry Marsh. And William Henry Marsh was a big pastoralist. He loved the area. When he went back to England, he spoke about the beautiful country, of the attraction of it, I forget his exact words, but it was wild, rugged country then, and Yuki had some blocks on it taken up from 1900. Well, then there was something eating the carrots in the shed one night, and the dog put it up, and it raced by Uncle Tom, made a grab at him as he went by, and the grandfather always maintained it was a hairyman. He was an old bushman, of course, who'd been brought up in the McDonnell Valley around St Albans. And then another time, Auntie Emma, she was only a girl of, she'd be about 7, I suppose, then. No, she'd be born about that age. And she went looking for the cows. And while she was looking for the cows, she found these young monkeys, she called them, up the she-oak trees throwing nuts, which we thought were young yowies. Anyway, the grandfather had to go and get the cows with her. Then it was years. During the next few years, I don't know when it happened, but I was told about it. I was too young to know at the time. And that was Teddy Colley, who was a cousin. His mother was a Thompson. She was a Rebecca Thompson. And he came home with his horse, sweating. Teddy was sweating too when he saw the big baboon, as he called it, on the road from Ballindine to Yuki. That was it. And then Walter Beddoe, a few years before that, Walter told about coming to town with his horse one afternoon. It was a bit misty. In the afternoon, he struck the Hairyman near what we now call Hairyman's Bend. That's on the back road from Stanthorpe to Mount Tully. And it made a grab at the horse's bridle. And then it strode over the fence. It was apparently tall enough just to stride over the top wire. And I used to ask Walter about it later on when I grew up, and he told me about the cheek pouches there. He said, I never want to see another one from there. But people used to make jokes of that, of course, that Walter saw the hairyman. Yeah. We did too, till Lynn and I saw the one that was eating the peas about 1935 or 36.
Do you know roughly what year Walter's sighting would have been?
This sighting was either 1935 or 1930. I think 1935, because it was a pretty dry year, 35. Yes.
Could you tell me a bit about your sight, the hairy man?
Yes. Well, of course, we went down. We carried about 3 tins of peas in sack bags each up from the farm, and we couldn't carry the rest of them that we picked, so we left them there, intended to go down later, and we forgot about them. Dad said to us after tea, boys, did you get that other bag of peas from the flat? No, Dad, we chorused, so we went down. And it was in the dusk sort of thing, and here's this thing bending over the bag of peas, and it straightened up, you see. And I thought, well, it might be George Wells or someone like that having a joke being done up in a suit, you see. So I yelled out, whoever you are, you don't scare me, sort of thing. And then it sort of took no notice at first, and then I threw a clod, and then it made that forward and sideways movement with that wonk, wonk, wonk from there. And it had taken off by this time across a drain. And at this I took off too, but I stood my ground when I came over a drain, and I had another go. But he must have been running at this time. I can't vividly remember, but I know that I must have been, because I took off behind Ern. I passed Ern. I ran some good races later on in professional running, but I ran the best run that night, and poor old Ern, plaintive plea was, wait for me, which I didn't, of course, and we got down to grandfather's house, out of breath. Uncle Fred was there, and of course, he pooh-poohed the idea of it, but he came up and got the bag of peas and took us up home to the shed.
About how tall was this thing?
Well, it's hard to remember. I don't think overly tall. I'd say anything between 5'6" and 6 feet sort of thing. But no hair on the face I can remember, and the dangling arms, and the forward and sideways movement. It's almost like a Charlie Chaplin, the way Charlie Chaplin used to come. He used to walk when he did his, you wouldn't know that, I suppose, in his comedy.
Like a waddle?
he used to, sort of a waddle, yeah. It's not exactly a waddle because it was a stomp at the same time. See? I think he did stomp, and I think he made some guttural noise the first time, in between times, I think so. Dan's dead now, unfortunately, or he could reproduce the sound exactly.
What colour hair was on its body?
Well, I wasn't far enough away to see the hair, but it was dangling hair from memory, but definitely not on the face. The farm was situated on this Sugarloaf, just off the Sugarloaf Road. The boundary runs along Sugarloaf Road, coming along within 2 miles of Stanthorpe. The 2 mile peg was just below our house.
You mentioned that your sister had possibly had an experience as well?
That's right, yes. She came home. I don't know when that was. It was some years after when I was away teaching, I think. And because Leela was about 10 years younger than I was, so she'd be about 7 or 8 or 9 at the time. So that would be 17 years if I was about 12 or 13. It'd be about 5 years, somewhere around 1940 or 41 would be Leela's sighting.
Mm-hmm. And what exactly did she see?
Well, she said, she came home telling Mum, she said, Mummy, there's a man up there in my cubby. And I don't know, she was pretty young, how she described it, but I do know that later on she was looking at a magazine, she saw this baboon, she said, that was just like, she said, the man in my cubby. Sitting down he was.
Have you heard of other stories around your area of the hairy man?
Of hairy man, well, there was Walter Beddoe. Walter was there. Then, of course, there was Teddy Colley. There have been stories since, I know, of people from various areas. There's a lady I struck at Ballandine, which is about 12 miles south of Stanthorpe, but she had come in from down around Woodinbong area. But she definitely heard the sounds, and she knew some from around there at Woodinbong, and I think she said she had the footmarks on the steps one time. I can just recall that. I bought some old bottles from her, and I had quite a yarn with her about it. See, most of the people would sort of keep quiet about this, but within our own family then, there was that Uncle Tom way back about the 1900, the Auntie Emma, there was Teddy Colley, the cousin, there was Walter Beddoe, the cousin, and then there was Ernie and I. There would be lots of people since then have seen various sightings in recent years from motor cars, but there was reports in the paper. I don't know whether someone was just playing a game or not on Quart Creek about the sighting of hairy men or yowies, and I wrote about that. That would be about I don't know, it might be 7 or 8 or 9 years ago, I think.
You also mentioned you'd possibly found some footprints you thought might have been from a hairy man?
Definitely the footprints. They were as if they'd been carved in the sand. Well, we had the detector there, and the detector's got about a 9 or 10 inch diameter, and it just about covered that. But it wasn't as long as I thought tracks would be. My son Ronald up in Rockhampton at Yeppooney, he was there, he saw it, and Ross, he's in Brisbane. They both saw them there. I'd say they were only about 10 inches long sort of thing, but very deep, and they seemed to have virtually no instep, and there seemed to be 4 toes, a big toe, and then there seemed to be a flange, a gap, where the other toes were from there, but there wasn't the usual instep in the sand. It was about 3 to 4 inches deep, the impression. It hadn't been blown away or anything like that, because the tracks were just the way at a slight angle. You know, when people walk, they don't walk at 90 degrees to the line of traverse sort of thing. That's always a slight angle, about 10 degrees to 15. It was just like that too, and looked as if it'd been... When I wrote to Molnar, he said it would have taken a terrific weight of about 500 kgs to do that, and possibly there was some stomping.
Where exactly were the prints found? In what creek were they found?
They were Australia's Creek, in Quart Creek, which is the creek that runs from the water supply. The water supply is further up at Stanthorpe. It's called another creek, but it's the one of the headwaters of it. It's the creek that runs through Stanthorpe itself. It was named by Patrick Leslie way back in the 1840s when he had a cup of tea from his quart pot and he forgot it on the bank of the creek, and he sent his black boy back for it, and he called it Quart Creek. Leslie, of course, were the pioneers here at Tilborough on the Darling Downs, and the first station, Patrick and Walter Leslie. I think it was perhaps Patrick at the time.
Did the local Aboriginals have legends about the hairy man?
Well, there are no local Aborigines per se around Stanthorpe. They were just, they sort of, we knew sort of a bloke called Darky, someone I just figured he was a good fighter sort of thing, and there was another part Aboriginal, he used to throw tomahawks at a tree from about 20 yards back, 30, that was a favourite recreation in the Depression, because people had no money, and they'd put a mark on a tree and they'd go back and throw tomahawks. Another thing, of course, was the old pitch and toss of the horseshoes, horseshoe pitching.